For a long time, the galaxy thought humanity had disappeared. People spoke of Earth like it was a ghost story, something that once existed but was now gone, forgotten in the vast emptiness of space. The Galactic Council had concluded that humans had destroyed themselves. Their colonies went silent, transmissions stopped, and their fleets vanished. To most of the galaxy, humans were a cautionary tale, a species that burned bright and then vanished, leaving only stories behind. But that wasn't the full truth. The galaxy had never truly known what humanity was capable of. While everyone assumed humans were gone, hidden far from prying eyes, something extraordinary was happening. On remote planets, out of reach of sensors and satellites, humans were quietly building something that no one could have imagined. They were not just building ships, they were building entire planets transformed into machines of war. Worlds reshaped and hollowed out, turned into living fortresses equipped with weapons so powerful that even the largest fleets in the galaxy would struggle to survive against them. This was humanity preparing, silently, while the rest of the galaxy assumed they had failed. The process started decades ago, soon after the human colonies lost contact with the main planets. It began quietly, with small projects disguised as ordinary industrial expansion. At first, the Council noticed nothing. Every signal that flickered into space was routed through decoys, through old communication satellites, through harmless-looking transmissions about mining operations or colony upgrades. To anyone watching from the outside, humans were disappearing, yes, but in a way that seemed almost peaceful, almost normal. No one suspected that deep in the shadows of distant star systems, a different kind of civilization was thriving, one entirely focused on creation and preparation. Humans had always been builders. They had always had an ability to adapt, to push boundaries and work together even when it seemed impossible. And now, faced with centuries of being underestimated, they took that ability to a scale that the galaxy could not have predicted. On barren planets far from trade routes or empire patrols, humans mined mountains, carved rivers, and even reshaped atmospheres. Entire continents were altered to house immense machinery, factories, and construction networks. Oceans were drained in secret to create platforms for weapons and engines. The work was impossible for individuals alone, so generations were raised and trained underground or in hidden orbital stations to continue this work. These were humans born knowing only one purpose: to finish the plan set by the first architects who had survived Earth's fall. The construction itself was awe-inspiring. Massive drones moved mountains like they were made of clay, and molten metal flowed in rivers through valleys carved by invisible hands. Cities of steel and glass sprouted overnight, designed to house engineers, scientists, and workers who would never leave the planet except to oversee the growth of the massive warship structures above. Energy shields shimmered invisibly over the work sites, hiding the glow of molten cores and the movements of the fleets in orbit. Nothing about the process was meant for anyone to see, and the humans worked knowing that the galaxy would never suspect until it was too late. While humans labored in silence, the galaxy continued its usual routine. The Galactic Empire expanded greedily, consuming weaker planets, enslaving species, and building more fleets. The Council debated borders and taxes while humans built worlds in secret. The Empire's fleets numbered in the millions, their officers confident that no threat remained from a species they believed extinct. And because no one had seen human ships for centuries, arrogance filled the Empire like a thick fog. They laughed at old legends of human bravery and ingenuity, dismissing them as fairy tales. They thought humans were a memory, a species that had burned brightly and then fallen apart. But the humans did not burn out, they simply went silent, preparing a return no one could have imagined. In these hidden star systems, life went on quietly. Humans lived in structured routines focused on building, training, and innovating. They developed engines that could move entire planets, weapon systems that could obliterate fleets, and defenses that could shield continents from the strongest energy cannons. Children grew up learning only how to repair systems, calculate trajectories, or manage the power of a world-sized engine. Education was practical, precise, and tied to one ultimate goal: readiness. Everyone understood the stakes, though few outside the system could imagine them. For generations, humans lived and worked in silence, knowing that the galaxy had written them off, and yet they thrived, hidden in the shadows, stronger than ever. There were no festivals, no celebrations, no public speeches. The human society here was quiet but unbreakable. Leaders were chosen for skill, not politics. and every decision was measured by one standard. Will it bring humanity closer to its return? As they grew, these hidden colonies developed technologies far beyond what the galaxy had seen. Every machine, every weapon, every engine was designed for efficiency and survival. Even their communication networks were undetectable, using methods that would make any standard scanner useless. If the Empire had sent 1,000,000 ships to survey the area, they would have found nothing. Humans had perfected the art of hiding in plain sight, and the galaxy's arrogance ensured they would never suspect what lay behind that silence. The irony was not lost on those who worked there. Humans had once been underestimated everywhere, by other species, by their enemies, even by their friends. And yet, in that underestimated state, they had created something that could not be ignored. While the galaxy assumed humans were weak, scattered, and powerless, humans were quietly preparing a presence so massive that it would rewrite the rules of conflict. And all of this happened without a single warning, without a single message to the outside, without even a hint that they were still alive. The galaxy had never expected humans to survive, let alone to prepare in secret. Perhaps the most remarkable part of it all was patience. Humans were patient in ways no one else could comprehend. Empires rise and fall quickly, entire fleets destroyed in a single campaign, but humans were building over generations. They understood that power was not in haste but in preparation. Each world reshaped, each engine perfected, each weapon calibrated brought them closer to the moment when the galaxy would realize it had been wrong about humanity all along. The galaxy had forgotten them, and in that forgetting, humans found freedom to grow beyond anything imagined. So for decades, humanity worked in silence. The galaxy assumed they were extinct. The Empire expanded, the Council deliberated, and species across the stars went about their lives without concern for a species they believed gone. Yet in the void, hidden worlds moved slowly toward a destiny none could have predicted. Mountains were reshaped, oceans redirected, and entire ecosystems adjusted to sustain the life that would one day return to the stars, not as colonies, but as warships the size of planets. And all of this was happening while the galaxy slept. The humans' greatest weapon was not firepower, not even the immense ships they were building. Their greatest weapon was the galaxy's assumption that they were gone. No one expected the quiet patience of a species that had survived its own near extinction. No one imagined the relentless drive that humans possessed to return, to prove that they were not only alive but stronger than anyone had ever imagined. In the shadows, hidden from sensors, the first whispers of movement began to stir. Plans that had been decades in the making were reaching completion. Engines that could shift the mass of entire planets hummed softly, waiting for the signal to awaken. Weapons calibrated to levels that could obliterate fleets sat silently, dormant yet ready, and humans, born and raised to serve a purpose greater than themselves, waited in quiet anticipation. The galaxy did not know it yet, but its memory of humanity was about to be shattered. Everything it believed about humans being weak, extinct, or powerless was about to change. And when the moment finally came, the story of humanity would no longer be one of disappearance. It would be one of awe, power, and a species that had never truly gone away. The first part of this story ends with one truth clear. Humans had built, in silence, a force that the galaxy could never have predicted. They had taken the world's fear and ignorance and turned it into an advantage. And though no one outside could see it, every plan, every labor, every quiet hour spent underground or in orbit had been in preparation for the day the galaxy would finally realize that humans were not gone. They had been hiding in plain sight, waiting for the exact moment to remind everyone that underestimating humanity was the galaxy's greatest mistake. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, where no trade routes or fleets ever reached, humans had created worlds that seemed ordinary at first glance. To any passing ship, these planets looked like untouched, barren places, perhaps too distant or lifeless to interest anyone. Yet beneath the surface, these worlds were alive with secret purpose. Massive machines worked tirelessly, reshaping the land, creating structures that were impossible to imagine. Entire cities were under construction, built not for comfort or beauty, but for efficiency and defense. And at the heart of it all was a vision that had guided humans for decades, turning planets into weapons, turning worlds into warships. The hidden construction sites were unlike anything else in the galaxy. Enormous forges powered by energy drawn from the very core of the planet worked day and night. Mountains were carved with precision, Rivers redirected and valleys reshaped to hold colossal engines. Oceans were drained and replaced with energy conduits and reactor chambers. Cities of steel and reinforced glass rose in perfect geometric patterns. Each block, each street, each tower carefully designed to integrate with the larger planetary machinery. The humans who lived and worked there rarely saw the sky. Most of their lives were spent underground or inside orbital stations that circled the planet, monitoring and managing the construction with meticulous care. Life in these hidden worlds was not easy, but it was purposeful. Every person born in these colonies understood their role in the larger plan. From an early age, they learned skills that were essential for survival and for the success of the project. Some became engineers, mastering the complex systems that controlled the planet's internal engines. Others became energy specialists, managing the enormous reactors that powered the planetary warships. There were scientists who designed weapons so advanced that even the galaxy's top militaries would struggle to comprehend them. Every citizen contributed, every task mattered, and every action brought humanity closer to the moment when the galaxy would finally notice them again. Despite the incredible scale of the work, humans maintained remarkable efficiency. Automated drones carried out the heaviest tasks, moving mountains like they were made of clay. Advanced machines melted rock, shaped metals, and constructed structures far larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humans directed these machines with careful precision, constantly monitoring for errors or weaknesses. Every corner of the planet was mapped, measured, and optimized. Nothing was wasted. Even the smallest detail, from the thickness of a wall to the angle of a weapon array, was designed to ensure maximum effectiveness. Yet for all the work being done, humans were patient. They knew that rushing would only create mistakes. Entire generations were born and raised with the understanding that their work might not bear fruit in their lifetime, but it was for the survival of their species and for the moment when humanity would re-emerge. Children were trained to understand the machinery of planets, to read the energy flows, to calculate the immense forces needed to move a world. They learned history, not the kind taught in schools elsewhere in the galaxy, but the history of survival, ingenuity, and resilience. They were taught the stories of humans who had faced extinction and refused to surrender, and those stories shaped their identity, their sense of purpose, and their determination. Communication between the hidden worlds was minimal, highly encrypted and almost undetectable. Humans developed systems that allowed them to share information across light years without being intercepted. Every transmission was routed through multiple layers of security, bouncing signals off decoy satellites, false planets, and energy pulses that mimicked natural cosmic phenomena. If any outside force attempted to listen, they would find nothing but noise, and even if someone managed to intercept a message, it would appear meaningless, like random bursts of energy or static in space. The galaxy believed humanity was gone, but the humans had ensured that no one could detect their progress. The hidden construction worlds were not isolated. They were part of a larger network. Each planet had a specific role. Some were primarily industrial, focused on producing weapons, engines, and building materials. Others were training worlds where humans learned the art of warfare, navigation, and strategy. There were research planets where scientists experimented with new energy sources, weapon systems, and planetary engines. And then there were the command worlds, where leaders coordinated the efforts of all the colonies, monitoring progress, predicting threats, and making adjustments to ensure that every project remained on schedule. Despite the enormous scale of the operation, the humans who lived on these worlds were connected by a shared sense of purpose. They did not compete for recognition or personal gain. Everything they did was for the collective goal of survival and preparation. Their society was built on trust, discipline, and ingenuity. Decisions were made based on logic and necessity, not politics or ego. Leaders were chosen for skill, vision, and the ability to inspire those around them. Every generation learned from the one before, improving systems, refining technology, and increasing efficiency. Humanity was not just surviving in these hidden worlds, it was thriving, evolving into something far greater than anyone in the galaxy could imagine. The construction itself was breathtaking. Enormous engines capable of moving entire continents were embedded within the planets. Weapons arrays, hidden beneath the surface or integrated into mountain ranges, were calibrated with precision. Energy shields, invisible to any scanner, protected the colonies from accidental detection. The planets themselves were alive with movement. Tunnels and conduits carried molten metal, energy and resources from one part of the world to another, all controlled by human engineers who understood every system intimately. And while the work was mechanical in nature, there was a strange beauty to it, a testament to the creativity, determination, and intelligence of humans who refused to be forgotten. Humans understood that patience was their greatest weapon. The galaxy moved quickly, empires rose and fell, fleets battled and were destroyed, but humans were building for the long game. They understood that time was on their side, as long as they remained hidden and focused. Every day brought them closer to the moment when they would no longer be underestimated. They were creating a force that could not be ignored, a presence so powerful that it would change the balance of the galaxy forever. And unlike other species, humans did not need immediate recognition or validation. They worked quietly, with the knowledge that their efforts would speak for themselves when the time came. The galaxy, meanwhile, remained unaware. Empire fleets patrolled space, trade routes were monitored, and the Council debated matters far removed from the hidden human worlds. They assumed the humans were extinct, their colonies abandoned. They assumed that no threat remained. And because of that arrogance, they never suspected the truth. Humanity was not only alive, but it was preparing to return in a way that no one could have imagined. On these hidden worlds, life continued in a rhythm of work and preparation. Humans were born, trained, and matured with a clear understanding of their role. They did not question the purpose because they saw the results every day. Machines moved mountains, cities grew, and planets began to take shape as massive warships, each one a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Children became engineers. Engineers became leaders, and leaders ensured that every project remained on track. Generations passed, and the work continued uninterrupted and undetected. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of these hidden worlds was the unity of purpose. Unlike other civilizations, humans were not divided by politics, religion, or personal ambition. Everyone knew that their survival, and the survival of their species, depended on completing the projects. Every decision, every action, every hour spent on construction or research was dedicated to one ultimate goal: readiness. They were building not just for war, but for survival, for proof that humanity had not only survived extinction, but had grown stronger than ever before. And so, the hidden construction worlds of humanity continued to thrive unseen and unchallenged. While the galaxy slept, humans labored, engineered, and perfected technologies that would one day astonish the universe. Each planet shaped, each engine built, each weapon calibrated, brought humanity closer to the moment when the galaxy would finally realize it had been wrong about them. No one knew when the day would come, and perhaps that was the point. Humans had learned that power was in preparation, in patience, in the ability to act when the moment was right. And as the hidden worlds worked tirelessly, silently, and efficiently, they carried within them a promise. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would one day be remembered. When that day arrived, it would not just be a surprise, it would be a revelation. The galaxy would see not just humans, but the culmination of decades of ingenuity, labor, and resilience. Humanity had built entire planets as warships, trained generations to master them, and hidden their power from the universe. The Empire, the Council, and every species that had forgotten humanity would be forced to confront the truth. Humans were not gone. They had been preparing quietly, efficiently, and brilliantly for the moment when they would rise again, and in that quiet preparation, humanity had found Stro. While humans labored in secret, the galaxy continued its usual patterns. The Galactic Empire expanded relentlessly, swallowing planets, enslaving populations, and claiming territories as if the stars themselves belonged to them. Everywhere, species fell in line, either willingly or under the weight of the Empire's fleets. Trade routes were protected, systems taxed, and rebellions crushed swiftly. For centuries, the Empire grew larger, bolder and more arrogant, and in their pride, they believed that no threat could rise against them. Not from humans, not from anyone. The Empire's admirals often boasted of their strength. "No species remains capable of opposing us," they would say. "Humanity is a memory, a legend, nothing more." And across the stars, species accepted this as truth. Even when older records hinted at human ingenuity or fearsome fleets, scholars dismissed them as myths, stories exaggerated over generations. To the galaxy, humans were extinct, a species that had burned bright and disappeared before they could truly threaten anyone. That assumption would prove to be their greatest weakness. As the Empire's fleets multiplied, humans continued to build in silence. Each planet-sized construction site grew in complexity, sophistication, and strength. The humans had perfected the art of staying invisible. Sensors scanning for energy signatures found nothing unusual. Patrol ships sent to monitor distant sectors reported lifeless planets, barren rocks, and empty space. Even the most advanced reconnaissance ships could not detect the hidden infrastructure, the artificial gravity engines, or the weapon arrays buried deep within the planets. The galaxy believed it was safe, and the humans' patience only deepened. Despite being unseen, humans were acutely aware of the growing threat. They watched the movements of the Empire, studied its fleets, and predicted strategies. Using their advanced communication networks, humans shared knowledge across light years, connecting the hidden construction worlds in a single coordinated effort. Every engineer, every operator, every leader understood the magnitude of what they were building. This was not just about survival. It was about ensuring that when the time came, humanity would emerge stronger than any force in the galaxy. On the surface, life on these hidden planets was disciplined. Children were trained from a young age to handle systems that would control continents. Young adults were taught navigation, fleet coordination, and strategy, even before they were old enough to understand the full scale of what they were managing. Scientists developed new weapons and propulsion systems, while engineers calibrated planetary engines with incredible precision. Every activity, no matter how small, was a part of a larger plan. The humans worked tirelessly, not for glory or recognition, but for the assurance that when the galaxy finally noticed them, they would be ready. Meanwhile, the Empire grew increasingly aggressive. Their fleets dominated sectors, enforcing taxes, suppressing uprisings, and crushing independent colonies. Ships patrolled continuously, scanning for resistance, and communication networks monitored the movement of any ships not registered to the Empire. But the humans remained hidden. The very systems that could have exposed them failed, not because of luck, but because humans had anticipated every potential method of detection. Their designs were so advanced, so precise, that even the most sophisticated sensors could not detect the signs of life, construction, or energy. They were ghosts in the galaxy, invisible yet omnipresent, waiting for the perfect moment. The contrast between the Empire and the hidden human colonies was striking. Where the Empire relied on brute force, humans relied on precision and foresight. Where the Empire assumed strength was in size, humans knew strength was in preparation and intelligence. And while the Empire celebrated victories and flaunted its power, humans worked quietly, steadily, building what no one else could imagine: warships the size of planets. Their patience and foresight made them nearly untouchable, while the Empire's arrogance blinded them to the coming storm. For generations, humans had refined their technology. Planetary engines capable of moving entire continents were tested in secret. Shields were perfected to withstand the most powerful attacks, and weapon arrays were calibrated to levels beyond comprehension. Each planet-sized warship was not just a machine, it was a masterpiece of engineering, strategy, and human determination. The humans had transformed ordinary worlds into instruments of war, while the galaxy remained completely unaware. Despite the enormity of their work, humans never lost sight of the personal element. Life on these planets was difficult, but it was human. Families grew up knowing their purpose. Friends supported one another through long years of labor, and leaders inspired hope and focus. They were not mindless workers. They were a society forged by necessity, discipline, and vision. Every decision was weighed carefully, every resource allocated efficiently, and every generation taught to understand the larger picture. This unity of purpose made the human colonies stronger than any single fleet the galaxy had ever known. The Empire, meanwhile, continued its expansion, unchallenged. Entire sectors fell to their fleets, and species who might have resisted were subdued quickly. Governors sent reports praising the Empire's efficiency and strength, unaware that a force capable of opposing them had been quietly growing in the shadows. Even when explorers stumbled upon human signals or traces, they dismissed them as anomalies, mistakes, or relics from a long-lost civilization. In their arrogance, the Empire never suspected that humans had not only survived, but had used their absence to grow stronger than anyone could imagine. Humans had also learned to observe without being seen. Advanced monitoring systems allowed them to track empire movements, fleet compositions, and even political decisions. Scientists could predict military campaigns long before they occurred, giving humans insight into how to counter any future threat. While the Empire believed humanity was gone, humans were learning everything about their potential enemies, preparing strategies that would ensure overwhelming victory when the time finally came. It was the ultimate form of patience and preparation, a silent power growing unnoticed while the galaxy remained blind. And yet, even with all the preparation, humans did not underestimate the task ahead. They understood the sheer size and scope of the Empire, the billions of ships, the countless soldiers, and the sprawling systems. Each planet-sized warship had to be built to withstand not just one fleet but potentially thousands. Weapon systems had to be calibrated for maximum efficiency, energy shields tested repeatedly, and engines refined to allow movement across vast distances. There was no room for error. Every calculation mattered, every component was crucial, and humans labored with the knowledge that failure was not an option. Time passed, and the humans' hidden worlds grew stronger. Entire generations were born, lived, and died without ever leaving their planets, yet each life contributed to the monumental task. Engineers perfected engines, scientists refined weapons, and leaders coordinated the networks of worlds. The humans had become something beyond a mere civilization. They were a network, a species operating as one with a singular purpose. Their patience, discipline, and vision had allowed them to achieve what the galaxy believed was impossible. As the Empire continued to expand, humans watched and learned. They studied the Empire's patterns, weaknesses, and strengths, preparing for the moment when they would no longer remain hidden. They knew that the galaxy's arrogance would be their advantage. The Empire had assumed that humanity was extinct, that no threat remained. That assumption was the very thing that made humans' eventual re-emergence so devastating. Every day spent in silence, every planet shaped and perfected, brought humanity closer to the moment when the galaxy would finally realize its mistake. And so, humans continued in quiet determination. They were invisible, patient, and unstoppable in their preparation. The Empire, unaware of the force growing in the shadows, continued to dominate, confident in their strength. But the galaxy's complacency, its arrogance, and its assumption that humans were gone would prove fatal. The humans had learned the most important lesson. Survival alone was not enough. Preparation, patience, and foresight were the true keys to power. By the end of these decades, humans were ready. Their planet-sized warships were approaching completion, their weapon systems and engines perfected, and their society fully integrated into a single, disciplined force. They were no longer the species the galaxy had forgotten. They were a force to be reckoned with, a civilization whose power was beyond comprehension, waiting for the moment to step out of the shadows. The Empire, confident and blind, had no idea what was coming. Their fleets continued to patrol empty space. Their admirals boasted of their strength, and their citizens believed in the security of the Empire. But humans were watching, learning, and preparing. And when the moment finally arrived, the galaxy would remember them, not as the lost species it assumed, but as a civilization capable of reshaping entire worlds and of changing the balance of power forever. For now, the galaxy slept, but the humans did not. They labored, built, and perfected. Every planet, every engine, every weapon was a step toward the inevitable revelation that humanity had not only survived, but had grown stronger than anyone could imagine. The Empire's arrogance had blinded them, and that blindness would become they. After centuries of silence, the first sign of humanity's return appeared unexpectedly. It wasn't a massive fleet or an open declaration of power. It was a signal, faint and cryptic, traveling through space from a sector long believed empty. The Empire, confident in its superiority, initially ignored it. Their sensors detected an unusual energy pattern, a pulsing signal unlike anything they had seen before. But they assumed it was a minor anomaly, perhaps a forgotten probe or a natural phenomenon. Yet the signal was not random, it was human. The transmission was simple, almost understated. A single message embedded within layers of encryption, traveling across light years to remain undetected by the Empire's scanners. When the data was finally decrypted by human operators on the hidden worlds, It carried a single statement: "We remember." Those two words were not just a message. They were a promise. Generations of humans who had labored in silence recognized them immediately. It was the signal that the moment they had prepared for was approaching. While the Empire dismissed the signal at first, curiosity eventually overcame arrogance. A patrol ship was dispatched to investigate, scanning the empty sector in a routine check. Its sensors registered nothing unusual at first. The planets appeared barren, lifeless and remote, nothing of interest. But as the ship moved closer, faint distortions in space began to appear. Gravitational readings fluctuated in ways that could not be explained by natural phenomena. The instruments registered mass moving unpredictably, and small fleets of unknown ships seemed to appear and disappear with uncanny speed. The crew reported their findings with growing confusion, but the higher command largely ignored the warnings. After all, who could expect humans to exist, let alone to control such strange technology after so many centuries of presumed extinction? Meanwhile, on the hidden human worlds, anticipation was palpable. Engineers monitored the signal and adjusted planetary systems, ensuring that everything was ready for the next phase. Energy shields were recalibrated, engines tested, and weapon arrays aligned. The humans who had lived their entire lives in preparation knew that this was the moment their patience and decades of labor would be tested. Every generation had worked toward this. Every calculation had been made, and now the galaxy would begin to see a glimpse of what they had built. The first contact was subtle, but unmistakable. The Empire's patrols began to encounter anomalies, ships moving faster than physics seemed to allow, planets with hidden energy signatures, and subtle shifts in gravitational fields. Each encounter left the crews unsettled. Reports from these missions began to circulate, but they were often dismissed as sensor errors, hallucinations, or miscalculations. After all, the Empire had ruled the galaxy for centuries. How could a species long believed extinct have created such marvels? Even as these anomalies occurred, humans remained hidden. They were careful, patient, and deliberate. Their goal was not yet to engage in open conflict, but to make themselves known, to re-establish a presence in the galaxy. Small fleets from the hidden worlds moved with precision, scouting the Empire's positions, mapping patrol routes, and testing defenses. The humans had studied the Empire for centuries. They knew how it moved, how it reacted, and how it planned campaigns. This knowledge allowed them to approach with caution, revealing themselves in ways that would maximize the impact of their eventual emergence. Communication between human worlds intensified. Leaders coordinated movements across light years, ensuring that every hidden planet was ready to act when necessary. Engineers fine-tuned engines capable of moving entire continents, while scientists ensured that energy shields and weapon arrays were operational. Every detail mattered. Even the smallest miscalculation could compromise the secrecy that had been maintained for generations. The humans understood that patience had brought them this far, and now precision would carry them the rest of the way. The Empire, for its part, began to feel a faint unease. Reports of unusual energy readings, strange gravitational anomalies, and fleeting sightings of unidentified ships grew more frequent. Some admirals insisted on investigating, while others dismissed the warnings. "The humans are gone," they said. "We have nothing to fear from a species that has vanished." But the more the Empire ignored the signs, the more certain it became that something unprecedented was approaching. And then the first visual confirmation occurred. A single patrol ship sent deep into the sector detected what appeared to be a planet moving unnaturally. Its trajectory was controlled, deliberate, and impossible to mistake for a natural phenomenon. Sensors picked up faint energy pulses from beneath the surface, indicating systems far more advanced than anything known in the galaxy. The patrol crew reported their findings, but the command structure of the Empire struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. Could it really be human? Could an entire planet be a vessel, a warship? Back on the hidden worlds, humans observed the Empire's reactions with calm precision. The engineers, scientists, and operators had prepared for this moment for generations. Every system was ready. Every fleet, every planetary engine, and every weapon array had been tested and perfected. They were no longer hidden merely for safety. They were hidden to ensure that when they finally revealed themselves, the impact would be overwhelming. And as the first signs of discovery reached the patrol ships, the humans began to take the next steps in their plan. The first direct interactions were subtle, but undeniable. Small fleets of human ships began to appear on the edges of sectors controlled by the Empire. They did not engage immediately. Instead, they conducted maneuvers, testing responses, observing reactions, and gathering intelligence. These fleets were highly advanced, faster and more powerful than any of the Empire's ships. Even the smallest engagements demonstrated the humans' technological superiority and their strategic brilliance. Crews of Empire ships reported confusion and fear, unsure how to respond to a species long thought extinct. As the humans re-established contact, the message was clear: they were alive, powerful, and prepared. They did not announce themselves with words or propaganda. They announced themselves with presence, with technology, and with precision. Every movement, every demonstration of power was calculated to leave an impression, to show that humans were no longer the species the galaxy remembered. They had grown, evolved, and mastered forces that could reshape the balance of power. On the hidden worlds, there was no celebration. Humans understood the gravity of the moment. The galaxy had begun to notice them, but the real challenge was still ahead. The engineers continued to refine planetary engines. The scientists continued to perfect weapon systems, and the operators continued to monitor the Empire's movements. Every day was a test, every action a preparation for the moment when open confrontation would become inevitable. Patience and precision remained their guiding principles. Meanwhile, the Empire's confidence began to falter. Reports of moving planets, strange fleets, and unexplainable energy signatures spread rapidly. Some officials demanded action, while others feared the unknown threat. Panic and confusion began to seep into the Empire's structure. For centuries, they had believed humanity to be extinct, and now the very species they had written off was demonstrating power beyond imagination. The realization was slow, terrifying, and undeniable. Humanity had survived, and it had been preparing in secret, mastering technologies and strategies that could rival or surpass the Empire itself. And so, humanity's return had begun. It was not sudden or explosive. It was calculated, measured, and deliberate. The first contact re-established, the first anomalies observed, and the first visual confirmations of planetary warships had all occurred. The galaxy could no longer ignore the humans, and the Empire could no longer act with certainty. A species long thought extinct was moving in the shadows, observing, learning, and preparing to emerge fully into the light. For the humans, this was only the beginning. The work of generations had brought them to this moment. They had built worlds as weapons, fleets as shields, and technologies beyond comprehension. They had waited patiently, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy, and now the first threads of discovery had begun to unravel the assumptions of the Empire. The message was clear. Humans had not disappeared. They had not surrendered. They had not forgotten. The galaxy, for all its power and arrogance, had underestimated them, and soon, the true scale of humanity's preparation would be revealed. The first contact had been made, the first warnings observed, and the first reactions noted. But the real demonstration of strength, the unveiling of the planet-sized warships, had yet to come. When it did, the galaxy would learn the truth. Humanity had not only survived, it had prepared in ways no one could have imagined. The hidden worlds continued their work. The fleets moved with precision, and the engineers monitored systems with meticulous care. Humans had waited centuries for this moment, and they understood that the patience, discipline, and foresight that had brought them this far would carry them through the next stage. The galaxy had begun to notice them, but the story was far from over. Humanity was ready to step out of the shadows, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy was about to witness something it could never have imagined. For centuries, humans had labored in silence, hidden from view, building entire planets into weapons of unimaginable power. Now, after generations of preparation, it was time for the first reveal. Unlike any fleet the Empire had seen, these were not just warships, they were living worlds moving and functioning as one. And the moment they appeared, the galaxy would be forced to confront a truth it had long ignored. Humans had not only survived, but had evolved far beyond anyone's expectations. The first of the planet-sized warships emerged quietly from the shadows of a distant star cluster. From a distance, it looked like an ordinary world. There were oceans, mountains, and cities faintly visible beneath protective shields. But as sensors scanned it, the truth became undeniable. This was not a planet in the usual sense. It was alive with machinery, its mass bristling with weapons, energy systems, and engines capable of moving it through space. Every continent, every ocean, and every mountain had been carefully engineered to serve multiple purposes, housing billions of humans, providing defense, and supplying the power needed for interstellar movement. When the first human Leviathan shifted its orbit, the effect was impossible to ignore. Gravitational anomalies spread through the surrounding systems, pulling at nearby moons and debris. The Empire's fleets stationed in the sector detected the movement almost too late. Hundreds of ships scrambled to respond, their commanders shouting orders, trying to understand what they were seeing. At first, there was disbelief. Could an entire planet really be moving on purpose? Was this some kind of natural phenomenon, a rare cosmic event? But as more readings came in, it became clear. This was no anomaly. This was a human warship, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. On the surface of the Leviathan, millions of humans monitored the systems with practiced precision. Engineers checked weapon arrays, energy shields, and engines. Operators coordinated the smaller support ships orbiting the world. Everyone knew their role, and every action was part of a carefully rehearsed plan. Generations of preparation had led to this moment, and the humans were ready. Their patience, their discipline, and their ingenuity would be on full display, and nothing the Empire could do would prepare them for what was coming. The first confrontation was unavoidable. Empire fleets numbering in the thousands attempted to intercept the moving planet. They fired weapons, launched attack drones, and tried to maneuver around the Leviathan, but it was too late. The planet's shields absorbed every strike effortlessly. Weapons arrays embedded in the surface responded with precision, targeting the enemy with accuracy that no human-designed system outside these hidden worlds could match. Entire squadrons of the Empire's ships were destroyed in minutes, vaporized by energy beams, missiles, and kinetic projectiles fired from the Leviathan itself. The scale of the attack stunned the Empire's command. Ships that had once been considered invincible were torn apart as if they were toys. Fleet formations crumbled and the morale of the crews plummeted. Officers had always believed in their superiority, but now they faced a reality they had never anticipated. Humanity had grown in silence, had mastered technology far beyond the Empire's reach, and had prepared for centuries for this exact moment. The galaxy's arrogance, the assumption that humans were extinct, had become a fatal mistake. The humans, however, did not celebrate victory. Their focus remained sharp, precise, and deliberate. They did not attack indiscriminately. Every strike was calculated, every move planned to ensure maximum effect with minimal waste. Even when faced with overwhelming odds, humans relied on strategy, coordination, and technology. The Leviathan did not merely fight, it demonstrated mastery. Its movement was fluid, almost organic, as if the planet itself understood the battlefield and adjusted to threats in real time. Smaller support ships, coordinated from orbiting stations, acted in perfect harmony with the planet below, overwhelming any attempt to counter them. Observers from other species in the galaxy could hardly believe what they were seeing. Reports flooded in from neighboring sectors. Entire fleets were destroyed or disabled in ways that defied logic. Worlds that had once considered humans extinct now trembled at their presence. Legends that had been dismissed as myths were suddenly proven true. Humans had not only survived, they had transformed survival into mastery. The Leviathan was more than a warship. It was a statement. Humanity would not be underestimated again. The second Leviathan soon followed, emerging from another distant sector. It moved with the same precision, demonstrating that the first was not an isolated marvel. Entire fleets began to form around these moving planets, each world bristling with weapons, engines, and shields. Smaller, nimble ships darted between the planet-sized warships, acting as scouts, interceptors, and tactical support. The Empire attempted to regroup, but every strategy they tried was countered before it could succeed. Humans had anticipated every possible scenario, every formation, every tactic. They were prepared for centuries, and the first contact was only the beginning. The psychological impact on the Empire was devastating. Commanders who had once considered humans extinct now faced the impossible reality. These were not ordinary ships, not ordinary technology, not ordinary humans. They had underestimated a species capable of patience, intelligence, and ingenuity on a scale unmatched in the galaxy. Every fleet, every weapon, every system they had relied on was suddenly insufficient. Humans had turned the very concept of war into something new and unimaginable. Meanwhile, on the Leviathans, humans remained disciplined and controlled. They communicated efficiently across interstellar distances, coordinating attacks and movements with perfect timing. Every continent's weapon arrays, every shield generator, every engine was synchronized with the others. Humans did not panic. Humans did not act recklessly. They moved as one, a single entity across multiple planets, demonstrating the full scope of what centuries of preparation had achieved. The battle continued for hours, and yet the humans did not need to fight for long. The Empire's forces were scattered, disoriented, and overwhelmed. Ships that had once been symbols of dominance were reduced to debris. Commanders realized too late that brute force was useless against a species that had prepared for this moment with intelligence, strategy, and overwhelming technological superiority. Humanity had emerged from the shadows not just to fight, but to redefine the rules of engagement in the galaxy. And then, as the Empire reeled from its first defeat, the humans made their intentions clear. The Leviathans did not seek unnecessary destruction. They struck to disable, to demonstrate power, to remind the galaxy of their presence. Their actions were deliberate, measured, and precise. They wanted the Empire to understand that humanity had returned not for conquest alone, but to ensure that it would never again be underestimated. Every destroyed ship, every neutralized fleet, was a message. Humans had been forgotten, but they had never been weak. From orbiting observation stations on distant worlds, humans watched the results of their first engagement. Engineers checked systems, scientists analyzed data, and operators monitored communications. Everything had gone according to plan. The galaxy had seen the first glimpse of humanity's true strength, and the Empire had learned in the harshest way possible that humans were not extinct. They had survived, grown, and prepared to rise with force, intelligence, and precision unmatched by anyone. The Leviathans began to withdraw, retreating into sectors that were still hidden. Humans had made their point. The Empire had witnessed the impossible, and the galaxy would now remember the power that humans had quietly amassed. This was only the beginning, but it was a demonstration that could not be ignored. Entire species, empires, and councils would now have to rethink their assumptions about humanity. For the humans, the victory was not about celebration or glory. It was about preparation and purpose fulfilled. Every generation that had labored in silence, every engineer who had calibrated systems, every scientist who had perfected energy and weapons technology had contributed to this moment. Humanity had emerged from centuries of preparation, and in doing so, had reminded the galaxy of one undeniable truth. Underestimating humans was the greatest mistake anyone could make. As the Leviathans moved back into hiding, the galaxy was left in shock. Reports, observations, and rumors spread like wildfire. No one had imagined that humans could build warships the size of planets, let alone coordinate fleets with such intelligence and precision. The Empire struggled to comprehend the scale of the threat, while other species began to rethink everything they had assumed about humanity. The stories that had once seemed like myths, tales of human ingenuity and resilience, were now undeniable reality. And through it all, the humans continued their work quietly. They monitored the galaxy, refined their systems, and ensured that the Leviathans were fully prepared for any future engagement. Their patience, discipline, and foresight had carried them to this moment, and now, the galaxy was beginning to see the results. Humanity had not just survived, it had become a force capable of reshaping the universe itself. The first reveal of the planet-sized warships would be remembered for centuries. Entire fleets had been destroyed, entire strategies rendered useless. After the first demonstration of their power, humans did not rush. They knew that the galaxy was watching, and that every movement from now on would be scrutinized. The Leviathans had made their point. Humans were alive, humans were powerful, and humans were no longer a species to underestimate. But the real work had just begun. It was not enough to destroy fleets and scatter enemies. Humanity needed to reshape the perception of the galaxy and establish its presence carefully, deliberately, and wisely. The Empire was in chaos. Fleets that had once seemed invincible were scattered, damaged, or destroyed. Commanders struggled to understand the technology and tactics they faced. Their arrogance had been their undoing. They had assumed humans were extinct, a memory to be admired or dismissed. They had not prepared for centuries of silent preparation, nor had they imagined that humans could turn entire planets into weapons. Panic and uncertainty spread through the Empire's ranks, and for the first time in centuries they felt vulnerable. From their hidden worlds, humans watched carefully. They monitored the Empire's movements, analyzed the reactions of other species, and adjusted their strategies accordingly. Humanity had never acted without calculation. Every engagement, every demonstration of power had been meticulously planned. And now, as the galaxy absorbed the first shock, humans began to show that their strength was not just in technology, but in intelligence, patience, and vision. Rather than unleashing full-scale attacks immediately, humans began with selective interventions. They targeted only the most aggressive fleets, demonstrating their capability while minimizing unnecessary destruction. Entire battle formations were disabled without complete annihilation. The message was clear. Humans were in control, humans were strategic, and humans valued precision over chaos. The galaxy began to realize that these were not reckless conquerors, but a species that had mastered patience, planning, and execution on a scale never before imagined. The Leviathans moved with remarkable coordination. Planetary engines shifted positions across systems. Fleets of smaller human ships acted as scouts and support, and communication networks ensured flawless synchronization. Empire forces tried to respond, but their traditional tactics failed again and again. Humans had anticipated nearly every maneuver, every formation, and every possible counterattack. Their centuries of preparation were not wasted. They were being demonstrated in real time, and the galaxy could not look away. Other civilizations, long oppressed or intimidated by the Empire, began to take notice. Rumors of the human Leviathan spread quickly, reaching worlds that had never interacted with humanity before. Messages from witnesses described impossible technology, unmatched discipline, and strategic brilliance. Entire planets held council meetings, debates, and emergency summits to discuss what was happening. For the first time in centuries, species across the galaxy wondered if they had misjudged humanity. Had the legends been true all along? And if so, what did that mean for the future of the galaxy? Humans understood the importance of perception. They did not seek to terrorize, only to demonstrate power and ensure respect. When they moved into sectors, they did so visibly but carefully. Planets were shielded from unnecessary destruction. Fleets were disabled rather than annihilated, and communication signals were sent that could be intercepted by the Empire or other species. These messages were simple yet powerful. Humanity had returned, humanity was ready, and humanity demanded that the galaxy take notice. The Leviathans became symbols of human ingenuity and resilience. Entire continents moved with engines calibrated for balance and precision. Energy shields protected cities from orbital attacks, and weapons arrays could strike with pinpoint accuracy from miles away. Every detail demonstrated intelligence, foresight, and technological mastery. The galaxy, long complacent and arrogant, had no choice but to pay attention. Humans were no longer the species they had assumed extinct. They were masters of the very forces that shaped the stars. Within the Empire, the leadership faced an existential crisis. Commanders who had once celebrated their dominance now questioned every decision they had made. Their fleets were inadequate, their technology outdated, and their strategies obsolete. For centuries, the Empire had ruled without challenge, but humans had changed everything. The arrogance of centuries crumbled in the face of precise, overwhelming, and carefully executed human power. And yet, despite the fear and chaos, humans remained disciplined, strategic, and deliberate in their actions. The people of humanity's hidden worlds also witnessed the unfolding impact. Generations of engineers, scientists, and strategists saw their life's work realized. Children trained in the art of planetary engineering and strategy now understood the scale of their contribution. Every calculation, every adjustment, every plan developed over decades was being demonstrated to the galaxy. Humanity's patient, calculated approach had finally borne fruit, proving that preparation, intelligence, and unity were far more powerful than raw numbers or aggression. Meanwhile, the Empire attempted countermeasures. They designed new weapons, tested experimental technologies, and attempted to coordinate fleets across multiple sectors. But humans had already anticipated these actions. Every technological advance, every tactical adjustment by the Empire was met with a precise human countermeasure. It was not luck, It was centuries of foresight, careful observation, and preparation. The humans had learned that patience and planning could outmatch force and arrogance. As days turned into weeks, the impact of humanity's return spread further. Entire species began to reconsider alliances, trade agreements, and defenses. Worlds long loyal to the empire began quietly negotiating with human representatives, understanding that the balance of power had shifted. Other civilizations marveled at the human warships, not out of fear alone, but out of admiration for the ingenuity, coordination, and discipline required to create them. Humanity's patience, preparation, and foresight had allowed them to emerge not only as a military power, but as a symbol of strategic brilliance. Throughout these events, humans maintained focus. They did not act recklessly, nor did they pursue vengeance for centuries of being underestimated. Their goal was clarity, recognition, and the establishment of their rightful place in the galaxy. The Leviathans were not tools of oppression. They were instruments of influence, demonstrating what humanity could achieve and reminding the galaxy of the cost of underestimation. Each controlled engagement reinforced this message, shaping the perception of humans across light years. Eventually, a formal communication was sent to the Empire's Central Command. The message was simple, clear, and unambiguous. Humanity has returned. We have prepared, we have endured, and we demand acknowledgement. Further aggression will meet consequences. Respect is not optional. It was not a declaration of conquest, it was a statement of fact backed by demonstration. The Empire could no longer ignore humanity. The galaxy could no longer believe myths. Humans were present, powerful, and prepared to act if necessary. The Leviathans slowly withdrew into sectors still hidden from most of the galaxy, maintaining the option of strategic movement and surprise. But the effect was permanent. Humanity had reasserted itself, proving that preparation, patience, and strategic thinking could surpass raw aggression or temporary power. Entire civilizations began reevaluating their understanding of the galaxy, questioning assumptions and planning anew. Humans had not only survived, they had changed the rules of engagement for everyone. For the people of humanity's hidden worlds, this was both a triumph and a continuation of duty. They knew that while the first confrontation had proven their strength, the work of ensuring security, stability, and influence across the galaxy was ongoing. Engineers continued to refine planetary systems, scientists pushed energy and weapons technology even further, and strategists coordinated fleets to maintain readiness. Humanity's emergence was a message, but it was also the start of a new era. In the end, the galaxy would remember the lesson clearly: humans were not to be underestimated. Generations of careful planning, centuries of preparation, and the intelligent use of technology had allowed a species once considered extinct to return with unmatched power. Entire planets had become warships, entire fleets coordinated with precision, and an entire society unified under a single purpose. Humanity had proven that patience, foresight, and resilience could achieve what no other species could, and so, the Leviathans became symbols not only of power, but of human ingenuity, discipline, and determination. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, and the Empire, once arrogant and unchallenged, had been forced to acknowledge that the humans were not gone. They had been preparing. Humanity had emerged not merely to fight, but to reshape the understanding of what a species could achieve. Through it all, the humans of the hidden worlds remained disciplined, patient, and united. They had shown the galaxy that survival was not enough. Strength, intelligence, planning, and purpose were what defined a species capable of standing against any threat. And as they looked toward the future, humanity understood that their patience and preparation had finally paid off. The galaxy would never again forget them, and humans had ensured that their place among the stars would be recognized for all time. The first confrontation was over, but humanity,